He basically said divorce was not an option.
So he didn't want to get divorced. Did he tell you what he wanted to do?
Yes.
What did he say?
He mentioned his plan to get rid of her. He got on top of her, and that's when I first saw him stabbing her with a knife.
She was the nanny, the lover, and now she's the state's star witness. The au pair returns to the stand today to continue her testimony against her former lover. So what can we expect? Plus, from Hollywood sets to a police station, actor Timothy Busfield surrenders. This amidst child abuse sex charges. Now, Busfield is speaking out about the, quote, lies. Also this hour, can you put a price on 4 lives? We're spotlighting accused killer Paul Canero's extreme expenses as he's standing trial for the brutal murders of his family members. And the medical examiner testifies in the cheating fire chief murder trial. So will the defense's intense massage theory hold up? We'll talk about it. It's all coming up next for you right here on Opening Statements. Good Wednesday morning to you, and welcome to Opening Statements. I'm Julie Grant. Are you ready for some coffee and some court? It's that time where we get you all warmed up and ready to go for the big day ahead on Court TV Live. And my, oh my, what a big day it's going to be. We got a big show planned, so let's get it started. Grab that cup of coffee. It's time for my opening statement. You don't find a lamb in a pig pen. Juliana, the au pair, knew what she was doing when she got in between a husband and a wife and went along with a murder plot. She may be rocking the librarian look these days and has turned state's evidence, but let's be clear. She was selfish and heartless and admittedly partaking in a murder plot that took 2 innocent lives. These were dastardly crimes. And I'm sure these prosecutors think what she did was despicable. But sometimes you have to make a deal with a not-so-innocent homewrecker like her in order to prosecute the most culpable actor. What stunned me the most about her testimony was how she says Brendan Banfield was planning out the murders of his wife, Christine, and that innocent man, Joseph Ryan, in anticipation of an investigation. We don't usually see that. Usually we just see criminals hoping not to get caught, right? No, but here, Brendan Banfield was allegedly planning to be thoroughly investigated, and therefore every move he allegedly made was so calculated so as not to implicate himself or his au pair girlfriend. But it seems the one thing that smart Mr. Banfield, the former IRS agent, didn't think about was the possibility of his little lamb taking a deal to save herself. That's right. She left the proverbial pig pen, and she may avoid some hard time now in the actual pen. That's my opening statement this Wednesday. Let me know if you like it. Right now, it's time for your daily docket.
And what is the current, well, are you and Kevin West in a romantic relationship?
Yes.
And what is the current state of your relationship?
We're engaged.
In Washington State, we've got the state expected to rest its case today in the cheating fire chief murder trial. This one is with defendant Kevin West. Court starts up noon Eastern. And our next hour, we're going to show you unaired testimony from guess who? You guessed it, his mistress. Now, his fiance. That's right, they're still together, Cynthia Ward. So that is coming up for you in just a little while. In New Jersey, we have the state's case continuing in the Mansion murders trial for defendant Paul Canero. Court's getting it underway in that case at 8:30 a.m. Eastern time. And in Virginia, the case I was just talking about, the au pair, returns to the stand this morning. That's right, she's not done. More testimony to go for her. The cross, that's coming up today. Let's talk about that. That is, of course, your top story this morning. So her name is Juliana Magalhães. She accepted a deal from the Commonwealth of Virginia to testify against Brendan Banfield. Now, he's the defendant in this trial. He's charged with murder in the deaths of his wife, Christine Banfield, and Joseph Ryan, the man he allegedly lured to the home. Now, during opening statements, the prosecutor laid out a very vivid story of the motive and said it was all because Banfield was having this affair with the au pair, wanted to get Christine out of the way, but didn't want to pay for a divorce. Well, the au pair got emotional on the stand at one point, describing Christine as friendly, telling the jury about Brendan's plan to get rid of his wife and how she watched him stab her to death.
So he didn't want to get divorced. Did he tell you what he wanted to do?
Yes.
What did he say?
He mentioned his plan to get rid of her. I was just crouching down on myself and covering my ears and covering my eyes. And a few times I looked and I was able to see him stabbing her, and he would stab, and other times he would hold the knife.
So what did you think of the au pair's testimony? Hit us up on social media, let us know. Let's dig in now. Let's talk about it and what we can expect to happen today. I want to welcome in my guests. I have retired homicide prosecutor, he's now in the private sector practicing law, Rick Grundy, and retired NYPD detective. He hosts his own show on the radio, the Rob O'Donnell Show. Rob O'Donnell is with us. Good morning to you both. Thanks so much for being here. So let's start with the testimony and your reactions to the au pair and what the jury might be thinking this morning. Rick, if this was your jury in your case, how do you think she's faring so far?
You know, I think she's doing fine for their case. She's not coming across like she has a motive other than what she is plainly speaking. She's going to get hurt. You can't put your case on her shoulders completely. I mean, just that little thing we just heard. I had my hand over my eyes and my ears while he was doing this. Oh, and I also, at some point in time, got up and put a slug in Joe when he was already down with a gunshot wound. When you have a witness like this, first off, in my opinion, and the way I would handle a case like this, they got off to the wrong start with her because they ended up with a plea agreement that included the charges and what the sentence will be. What you do in this situation is you get the lawyers together, you say, I'm giving her a proffer letter. It says that if, in fact, she tells us her side of the story and we buy into it, she will get consideration, she will plead to this charge. It does not mention what the sentence is. That is to be done later. They want the deal that she got, but you can't hand that to them because it gives away too much of the credibility. So she's really in a, as a witness, in a difficult position for the Commonwealth because she walks out if she does the job here. So everything in that trial now needs to be planned around her to corroborate her so that when you get up and do your closing, it's like, she's not my star witness. She's the decoration here. Because it's corroborated preferably by forensic evidence over other witnesses so that you can stand up there and say, the person you saw testify here could not have constructed this story to incorporate the gun forensics, the manner of death, etc. It all fits.
Sure. Let's take a look at some of that. So here's a clip from her. She's talking about how Brendan Banfield knew there was going to be an investigation. This was the part that stunned me the most. Rob O'Donnell, I want to come to you on the other side of this. Let's take a look at Miss Au Pair.
He knew eventually we would have one investigation.
Why?
Because there would be a murder, and it's just what happens.
Rob, you have investigated many, many, many cases over the course of your illustrious career. Have you ever had a defendant who knew an investigation was coming, and so through the plotting of the homicide or homicides, they prepared for the way police would view the facts?
It's unusual, but it does happen. You know, we do come across it time to time. It just shows the amount of pre-planning. It shows the amount of effort that was put into it, not only on the gentleman here, but this au pair herself. You know, where they took turns posting on her own laptop to when she was home, when the victim was home here. So it just goes to show the amount of pre-planning that went in on both parts, not just him. Now, there's an unusual circumstance here because you have a prosecutor whose job here is not to make her the true bad person. He's using her as a tool to get to Banfield. And you have a defense attorney who's looking to defend her. So are they truly looking to hurt her and prosecute her on the stand? Now, you already have an agreement for a guilty plea if she testifies and does what they want to do here. But she is by far innocent in this whole series.
Right. You're so right, Rob. Yes, she is no innocent little lamb. She partook in this. She knew what she was doing. But you gentlemen both know sometimes you have to make a deal with a not so great actor to get the really bad actor. Rick Grundy, do you think it's worth it here to make the deal with her? We understand that she pleaded to manslaughter. It carries up to 10 years imprisonment. Our understanding is she has not been sentenced yet. It seems to be, you know, going to be largely based on how well she performs in this trial, as you noted just a moment ago. Worth it?
So the first thing you have to do as a prosecutor, I personally, whether it was a case I was handling or one that I was supervising, I need to be 100% satisfied that this is the individual before I go forward on that case. I then go to the task of putting together the case to get to beyond a reasonable doubt where we can file that charge and go forward. I can't tell. I haven't seen enough of the rocks turned over in this investigation to know if they got to that point where they had to make a deal with her. It certainly strengthens what I've heard they have other than that. But my issue isn't so much, like you say, there are times when you need to make the deals. My issue isn't with making the deal. My issue is with the deal here, because it was said to the jury in opening statements that she walks out after this trial by virtue of her testimony. If they can solidify that in front of the jury, that's when your complaining co-defendant who testifies on your behalf really hits the lowest base level of their ability to assist you. You want the jury to simply hear they have been promised that they will get some consideration for their testimony. And as a prosecutor, you can never give up those reins completely and tell the defense, basically, we need her at all costs.
Yes.
You still have the power over her.
Yes, I see what you're saying, Rick. I know what you're saying. You know, typically, at least the way I did it in my former office, you know, and sometimes I would be part of a companion case. You'd put different DAs on it and make it very clear in case someone needs to be called as a witness. And you say, look, they're promised nothing. And so you can honestly ask that question, what were you promised? You know, and they can say nothing. And they're hoping to get something. I see the point you're making. That's a good one. Rob, let me ask you this. How critical do you think it is that she's giving a little bit of conflicting information here regarding the way the shooting of Joseph Ryan went down? Because we know that he was shot allegedly by both of them, both her and Brendan Banfield. She says Brendan shot first. And she gave different versions. On the stand, she said that he told her to shoot him again. But on the body camera footage, she talked about saying that he was still moving. And because she perceived him as a threat, she shot him. How critical do you think this deviation in her story is?
Well, beyond a reasonable doubt is the threshold, and if they can prove any reasonable doubt, it is very critical here. There's also, this case is not an open and shut case. My understanding is the lead detective and lead forensic detective were relieved from this case because they did not agree with the prosecution's angle on this. So if that comes out in court, this is not an open and shut case, even with her testimony.
Right. Great points from you both. You both are sticking around with us. We thank you for that. Coming up next here on Opening Statements, we got a star in Hollywood in handcuffs. Emmy winner Timothy Busfield surrendering after allegations of child abuse. Plus, Paul Cadero allegedly murdering his brother, his sister-in-law, and his niece and nephew. And the state of New Jersey says this was all because of money. Money. So was there a price on this family of 4? That's also straight ahead.
The defendant had 3 Porsche leases.
Next category is Tiffany and Company.
In 2017, payments totaled $17,714.
What is the total expenses in 2017?
$402,588.72.
We'll get you ready for the au pair affair murder trial, plus the latest on the mysterious killing of an Ohio dentist and his wife in their home.
Opening statements with Julie Grant. Mornings at 8/7 Central on Court TV.
Did an affair with the family's au pair lead to double murder?
He was saying, I'm gonna kill her, I'm gonna kill her.
It's a case of sex, lies, and deadly deception.
The au pair affair murder trial. Live coverage today on Court TV.
Welcome back. Now to what is trending in true crime this morning, and it's actor Timothy Busfield saying that he will fight the, quote, lies after turning himself in on child sex abuse charges. The 68-year-old was booked in New Mexico on Tuesday on charges involving 2 boys who were appearing on The Cleaning Lady. It's a TV drama that Busfield was producing. According to the affidavit, both of the boys are 11 years old and related, and described what they said was inappropriate touching of them by Busfield in 2022. A video obtained by TMZ shows that Busfield addresses the allegations against him shortly before turning himself in.
I'm going to confront these lies. They're horrible. They're all lies. And I did not do anything to those little boys. And I'm going to fight it. I'm going to fight it with a great team. And I'm going to be exonerated. I know I am, because this is all so wrong and all lies.
The fallout from these allegations is notable. NBC pulls the episode of Law & Order SVU that Busfield appeared in as a guest star. His wife, Melissa Gilbert, deactivated her social media, but then released a statement in support of Busfield. The most shocking allegation against him? What do you think? Let's talk about this. Let's bring in our power panel. Still with me, retired NYPD detective and host of the Rob O'Donnell Show, Rob O'Donnell, and entertainment reporter and the host of Kinsey Schofield Unfiltered, Kinsey Schofield, back with us. We have missed you, Kinsey. It's been way too long. So welcome back. It's great to see you this morning, and thanks for waking up on the West Coast. All right, so the most shocking part of this, awful allegations, but you see him adamantly saying this didn't happen and I will fight it and be exonerated. So let's just start with the most stunning part. Rob O'Donnell, I want to begin with you as a detective. What is it for you when you heard about these 2 boys coming forward in these criminal charges?
There's just so many moving parts to a case like this because it is old. It was already internally investigated. There's a lot of there for this case. As far as his statement just now that you just played, the right to remain silent is a very good tool, and I know it's hard for people in Hollywood, but he should have done that. It's not a good look to call children liars when there's accusation against you. Present your case and defend yourself. These cases are always difficult, especially with children victims and children who are going to have to be witnesses here, because if it's proven that there was in fact some kind of assault here, you're re-victimizing these children. So prosecutors are very cautious on how they go about this. There's also the evidence that this mother was told another actress on set that she wanted revenge on him. If they could bring that out in court, this is going to be a difficult case to get through.
All good points, Rob. Thanks. Kinsey, for you, what's the most stunning part of this?
Well, Busfield allegedly told the children to call him Uncle Tim, and the criminal complaint said he would tickle them on the stomach and legs despite them not liking the tickling. The arrest warrant claims that Busfield and Gilbert, his wife, had a relationship with the alleged victims and their families outside of work. According to the warrant, they advised that they bought the 2 children Christmas gifts and were together at several social functions. And the investigation was opened in November 2024 when staff at the University of New Mexico Hospital called police and reported children potentially being groomed on a studio set. So to me, it does feel like the right steps were taken. And, it's hard to believe that potentially this is just a quick cash grab when it seems like the family went out of their way to talk to doctors and the appropriate people.
Yes, good points from you, Kinsey. I want to expound on one of the points you made in that affidavit about how it says that Timothy Busfield and his wife, Melissa Gilbert, would try to foster closeness, and I'm paraphrasing here, by her buying Christmas gifts for the children, them inviting the boys' families for gatherings to get together with them off-set. Rob, what do you think when you hear about that, to foster closeness, gatherings outside of work, okay or not okay?
It's a difficult fine line because in a defense case here, I think that they can bring in and saying by creating that closeness, by creating that familiarity with the two families, it's easier to work with these children actors who are historically, hesitant to on sets with strangers. So, and then they could bring on his wife, Melissa Gilbert, who was herself a child actor, to say, yeah, my closeness with Michael Landon, my closeness with my co-hosts on there, fostered a better environment on set while I was working. So, I think it's easily talked through with that, where most people would think a business relationship like that for any other type of work would be strange, your boss or someone involved with someone at work being that friendly with you. But I think when this gets to a trial, they can create to a jury, that this was beneficial to the children to have that closeness and the environment in acting. So we're going to have to, again, these cases with children like this, which should be investigated to the fullest extent, and I'm glad this is happening. It's not going to be an easy case to prosecute.
Right, Rob. Let's take a look at Busfield's accomplishments in Hollywood. We know he's been there a long time. He's had a great career, multiple credits, both as an actor and a director. Some of the credits include Revenge of the Nerds, 30-something, Field of Dreams, The West Wing. He directed 150 television episodes. And so, of course, this raises the question, what's Hollywood going to do? Are they going to stand by him? Are they going to abandon him? What should Hollywood do? Should they stand by him? I want to go to you, Kinsey. Being in Hollywood, speaking so often about cases that involve celebrities, your thoughts on the temperature out there, the reaction that we saw yesterday when this really kind of came to a head, with him turning himself in, and what you think we're going to see going forward?
Well, according to the affidavit we've been talking about, Warner Brothers Television hindered the investigation by requiring that interviews with other minors from the set be coordinated through studio counsel. And they withheld the results of its own internal inquiry until 3 months after police obtained a warrant. But to be honest with you, I'm not seeing a lot of people automatically assuming guilt in this case. The digital response currently suggests that long-term visibility, in his case, being an actor for such a significantly long amount of time, can buy you, in the court of public opinion, not absolution, but a willingness to wait when the figure in question feels familiar, it seems. There is a unique sense that someone they grew up watching deserves the patience of due process before judgment, which I think is so rare in this case.
That's an excellent point to end the segment on, Kinsey. Thank you for that. He is certainly deserving of due process. Everyone is accused of crimes, and I think sometimes the court of public opinion gets really, really out of control, and sometimes, we can find assistance in solving cases, and sometimes it can be detrimental, and we've seen interference in cases. And so I think this remains to be seen, how it's run, how the judge runs it, but something certainly to watch for, the temperature of the public outcry, and whether we'll see any more statements. Maybe, like you said, Rob, typically it's best to stay silent. Maybe we'll see something from his lawyers, and of course we'll report who they are once he assembles the team. Gotta leave it there. Kinsey Schofield, Rob O'Donnell, O'Donnell, thank you so much for the great insights. Friends at home, don't go anywhere except maybe to get a little more coffee. You'll want to come right back. We're talking about the money motivation in New Jersey that is alleged in the Mansion murders case. Plus,
Defense counsel asked why you hadn't included mention of a massage in your report. What was the cause of death indicated in your report?
I listed the cause of death as asphyxia due to blunt neck trauma.
the medical examiner testifying in the cheating fire chief trial. So will the defense theory about Marcy West dying from an intense massage hold up? We'll discuss.
He stabbed his nephew Jesse multiple times in his upper body and threw his arm into his chest. And he stabbed his niece Sophia 17 times over her entire 45-pound body.
It's incomprehensible. This morning, we are spotlighting the extreme spending of defendant Paul Canero. That's right. He's accused of those horrific crimes you just heard about, accused of leaving his 4 family members dead, his brother's family. Now, according to prosecutors, he murdered his brother, his sister-in-law, his niece, and his nephew in November of 2018, set their mansion on fire, then set his own mansion on fire. Now, prosecutors make these allegations, and they say that the basis and the driving force behind them was money. Money. Yesterday, we heard Detective Debbie Basinger testifying about how much money the defendant was spending at the time of the homicides and what he was spending the money on. Take a listen.
The defendant had 3 Porsche leases, and in 2017, those lease payments totaled $39,846.51. And in 2018, those payments totaled $25,906.90.
Next category is Tiffany and Company. Do you see that?
Yes. In 2017, payments totaled $17,714. And in 2018, payments totaled $2,625.
What is the total expenses in 2017?
$402,588.72.
And how about 2018?
$314,061.70.
So living like you're rich when you have money problems is a great way to become poor. We're going to hear more about his money problems this morning when that witness retakes the stand, and she's going to be cross-examined by Mr. Canero's counsel. So what do you think about this? Because prosecutors are saying that things got so bad, his world was coming down with all the financial problems, and his brother was on to him, and there would be an insurance payout if the whole family was deceased. What do you think? Let's bring in trial consultant and law enforcement trainer Sonny Slaughter and former homicide prosecutor Rick Grundy. Great to have you both on this. Sonny, I'll begin with you. Your reaction to hearing that the state of New Jersey believes money was the root of these crimes.
Good morning, Julie. Good morning, Rick. Great to be on with both of you. The first thing I thought was family annihilator and the intersection of this case and Alex Murdaugh's case, and that the family becomes an extension of an individual's identity, and the finances are really around their theory is that he has suffered potentially narcissistic injury, and that is where a person's exposure and the blow to their self-esteem and self-concept around power, privilege, becomes the illusion that they are immune from this, and that these acts then settle, the acts of annihilating the entire family, settle anything that has to do with their discomfort around being exposed.
I like what you're saying there, Sonny. I agree. I was thinking about Alec Murdaugh yesterday. I'm saying it's so stunning, the similarities between these cases. Rick, with Mr. Canero in the outrageous spending, Looking at what the defense might say, you know, when you're a prosecutor, obviously you're anticipating the other side. Today is going to be the defense's time to get up and cross her. What do you expect to see his lawyer saying about this and the points you would think he should make for the jury?
Well, what we know at this point in time, and I think Sonny gave a great commentary there with respect to the mental mens rea that a person goes through when they commit an act like this, with the key word being narcissist. But on the defense side, they've already put out there that there's a ghost out there. I guess the ghost is supposed to be the other brother. So without taking on proving beyond a reasonable doubt that that happened, they've put that out there, and that seems to be kind of the cornerstone of their defense. So I think what you need to do is they're going to focus in on that he had a great relationship with these kids and with his brother, and I think unsuccessfully, defense attorneys try at times to say, who would commit such atrocity for money? And it kind of ignores the fact that throughout history, whether it be for land or lust, we will kill one another. Whether it's by a government or individuals one-on-one going to war, we kill for money and lust.
Right, that's right, Rick. Let's take a listen to some of what the prosecutor said in the opening statements about how Paul Canero allegedly committed these crimes.
He waited until dark, until the early morning hours after midnight, and he came prepared. He armed himself with a loaded handgun. He wore black nitrile gloves on his hands, and he snuck up on the family while they slept.
She says he snuck up on the family, going in the middle of the night when they're most vulnerable. Ooh, it's just chilling to think about this. Sonny, your thoughts on the stealth nature of these crimes as alleged by this prosecution team?
You know, it's really painful to think about the planning that people do first in their minds before they act them out, and the way in which they make peace with what they're going to do. And I think the prosecution really hit the nail on the head when it's like a lying in wait, and the other people don't even know what's coming. And the way he snuck up on them is really hard to fathom, that these small children and their parents who never saw this coming and probably still loved him were victimized, traumatized, and murdered in such a heinous way.
You know, and I think the one fact that I cannot get out of my brain, and I hope the jury can't either, that these children were suffering from those stab wounds, bleeding out and still alive when that house fire was set, and inhaling all that smoke. These are despicable, dastardly crimes, and if he's the guy, he needs to be paying dearly. We'll see. That trial rolls on today. We'll keep you posted on its progress. Rick and Sonny, stand by, please. We'll hit a break when we come back on opening statements. Did victim Marcy West die from strangulation or from an intense massage? The medical examiner testifies in the cheating fire chief murder trial. We'll get you ready for the Au Pair Affair murder trial, plus the latest on the mysterious killing of an Ohio dentist and his wife in their home.
Opening statements with Julie Grant. Mornings at 8/7 Central on Court TV.
Did an affair with the family's au pair lead to double murder?
He was saying, I'm gonna kill her, I'm gonna kill her.
It's a case of sex, lies, and deadly deception.
The Au Pair Affair murder trial. Live coverage today on Court TV.
I had no idea what time it was. I just woke up. My dog was whimpering and kind of woke me up. And then I knew she was having a seizure. And I got out of bed. And I called 911 on my side of the bed.
Kevin West says his wife had a seizure, and that's what led to her death. But could testimony from the medical examiner be tipping the scales of justice against him? So Tuesday, Dr. Martha Bird, who performed the autopsy on Kevin's wife, Marcy West, had this to say about how Marcy died.
Are the injuries that you documented only consistent with a rear naked choke?
No.
Are they also consistent with putting your fingers into somebody's neck?
Yes.
Defense counsel asked why you hadn't included mention of a massage in your report. What was the cause of death indicated in your report?
I listed the cause of death as asphyxia due to blunt neck trauma.
And why call it asphyxia and not strangulation?
I used those terms specifically and not strangulation because strangulation has different meanings in different contexts, and to avoid any miscommunication or misinterpretation, I chose words that would be accurate and not exclude or limit interpretation.
All right, she went on to say that homicide is the appropriate manner of death here. So due to Marcy's injuries, she's saying most likely coming from the actions of another person, will this defense theory of an intense massage hold up? I would assume they've got their own expert on deck. We'll see when they get their chance to present. Let's talk about it now with our guests. Still with me, Sonny Slaughter. Want to welcome in criminal defense attorney, former prosecutor David Gelman. All right, so let's dig into this. So an intense massage leads to a seizure that leads to a death is what the defense is saying here. David, what say you about that theory?
It's a theory, that's for sure. I don't know how well the jury's really going to buy this. Honestly, look, juries are smart. We know this, Joel. So this is not something that the defense is going to have to. They're going to have to do something. So their defense, their expert, like you're saying, really better step up, because this expert for the prosecution, they did a very good job, in my opinion, here. And I think that just showing that, look, she didn't die from a seizure. She died from blunt force trauma, from a strangulation, from asphyxiation. So their expert better be on the ball. That's all I could say.
Mm-hmm. Right, David. Yeah, battle of the experts coming up here. Sonny, you've seen it before. So your thoughts when you hear about this theory postured by this defense team. Sonny, do you think there are jurors who might buy into this and believe it?
Absolutely not. Because as somebody who actually wrote the training on epilepsy and seizures for public safety, they have to tie in how a person could have a massage, physical, and then have a seizure, which is electrical brain activity. And what does that look like? And the reality of that those two don't not only measure, but they don't meet up in the middle for whatever this theory is that doesn't make sense. They have to bring logic and understanding to a jury, and that is not logical. It does not make sense, especially when the manner is listed as homicide and asphyxiation, which people know means that something physical had to happen, and a massage would not make this possible or plausible.
Oh, Sonny, thank you for that. I didn't even know you wrote that training. That is awesome and very impressive. Thank you. Dr. Bird, the medical examiner who we just saw a moment ago, I've got another clip from her. This is when she was asked on redirect to explain why she doesn't think this massage theory holds up.
The location of the contusion is, part of it is over a bony prominence, which is not a focus of a tissue massage. If there is slow continual pressure of the tissue sufficient to cause bleeding in the muscles, I would expect there to be injury to the skin surface.
Oh, that's a good answer, isn't it? Sonny, I see you're nodding. You like that. Tell us your thoughts on what the doctor said.
So there would be bruising is what she's essentially saying. There would be bruising on the neck that would be visible. And also, a person who is getting a massage would react in a certain way for the pressure points that is being applied when you are massaging. And that even with a deep tissue massage, you don't come up with bruising. And if you do, that means the person is not trained properly and they don't know what they're doing. But there would be a reaction from the person that is being massaged and handled in this manner.
Right, Sonny. David, tell me, being somebody who tries cases on both sides, you've been a prosecutor, you're in the private sector now doing criminal defense work. Thinking like this defense team must, trying to advocate for him the best way they can. Do you think this is all they've got, in terms of where else they can go on these facts? I'm curious, do you see any other avenues that they can pursue that may be viable here?
Hey, that's a great question, Julie. I don't know. I mean, frankly, I think, this probably is all they got. So they better just go forward with it and try to just hit a home run with it. Because right now, that expert, I'd love to have that expert testify for me. She was brilliant. She really broke it down. Look, you know how it is. When you have medical jargon and legal jargon, juries don't really want to hear about that. They want to get it down. They want to break it down to the nuts and bolts so they can understand it. And I thought this expert did a really, really good job at doing that so everybody can understand it. Now, their expert for the defense, they're going to have to do the same thing, and they're going to have to counteract exactly what this expert just said. And they're going to have to say, look, no, this is not blunt force trauma. This was an individual doing a massage, and they can point to the pressure points and whatnot. Obviously, that's above my pay grade, but their new expert, they're going to have an uphill battle, I should say.
Yeah, great points, David. Sonny, let me ask you, when I think about what Mr. West, the battalion chief for 22 years, and husband for 22, what he's gonna do. We know he's got the first responder training, right? And when he gets a chance to testify, and we know that was partly what, had investigators not thinking this was a homicide, at first, or think, oh, because he's saying I tried to save her life, and that's what he's trained to do. What do you think he's gonna do, Sonny? Do you think we're gonna see him get up there and try to explain the massage and how she gets these therapeutic massages and how the seizure went, that morning? What do you think we're going to see from him?
I think he is going to testify because I think he needs to try to explain what not only the case's theory, but his reaction as a trained expert who should be able to recognize these things based on his background and how he responded. So he's gonna want to because he's a narcissist, and he's gonna need to because he has the expertise, and their theory won't make sense unless he gets on the witness stand, and like David said, they have an expert as good as the prosecution.
Right. Well said, Sonny. Yeah, and my goodness, he's still with the lover. They're engaged now she's the fiance, and we're going to watch all the unaired footage coming up in just a short time. That'll be a treat, and maybe that'll kind of inform what he's going to do on the stand. I would think, come on, he's a defendant, the big benefit. You get to see all the witnesses testify. So great points from you both on Mr. West. We'll see what happens with this massage theory as it continues to be put forth. Sonny Slaughter, we have to say goodbye to you. Thank you for your time and insights. David Gelman's coming with us for Court TV Live. That is coming up next, friends. Opening statements is over, but guess what? We're back tomorrow. We put all the episodes up on our website for you, courttv.com. Just click on that red shows tab right there. You can watch the episode again, share them with your friends. We love having you here every weekday morning at 8 a.m. Eastern Time.